He was looked down on for appearing weak, but he shocks everyone when they realize he's actually the strongest sword master in the country. The story begins as we meet a middle-aged swordsman named Beryl, but his father comes up to him and mentions that he's getting old, and he can't believe Beryl still hasn't given him any grandchildren. Beryl's students greet him, and we learn that he runs a dojo in the country, where he teaches them how to wield a sword. He's lived there all his life, and has always dreamed of becoming a great swordsman, but he thinks his skills are nothing special. He knows that he has a talent for teaching, so he thinks he's right where he needs to be, and notes that he has students that went on to become successful. Beryl eats with his parents, and his father asks his wife if she also wants Beryl to start a family. She thinks he'll find a wife sooner or later, but she still expects him to give them grandchildren. There's suddenly a knock at the door, and Beryl realizes it's his old student Alucia, who still calls him her master. His father recognizes her as the commander of the Royal Knights, and she reveals that she's there to recruit Beryl, telling him he has been appointed as their special instructor. She shows him a royal order, and tells him he'll be punished if he doesn't go to the capital, revealing that she has a carriage waiting for him outside. He can't believe he needs to leave immediately, but his father tells him to find a wife in the capital, and even suggests marrying Alucia, but Beryl thinks he's too old for her. They head to the capital, and Beryl realizes that Alucia still has the sword he gave her when she graduated from the dojo. But he thinks she needs to find a better sword, because she's now the commander of the knights. She explains that it's perfect for her, and he realizes that she still recognizes him as her superior, but he thinks he's too old to be a special instructor. She reveals that everyone recognizes him as the backwater swordmaster, who has trained the best knights and adventurers, but he thinks she's just exaggerating. They reach the capital ball train, and Beryl thinks it looks amazing, because he isn't used to going to cities. The next day, Alucia announces that the knights will have a special instructor, and she notes Beryl is so strong that she's no match for him. He introduces himself to everyone, and mentions that he isn't confident in his abilities, but he promises to do his best to help them. After that, Alucia tells Beryl he only needs to train the knights 3 to 4 times a month, so he can still manage his dojo while he works there. A knight named Karuni suddenly approaches him, and he recognizes her as one of his students. He recalls that she trained in his dojo for 2 years, and he knows that she always wanted to be a knight, so he's glad she was able to achieve her dream. At night, Beryl heads back home, but he's surprised to see his student Randrid, who came to visit with his family. Beryl's father tells him he's no longer needed in the dojo, because Randrid will teach his students, telling him he can't return until he finds a wife. He realizes that Randrid will give up adventuring so that he can spend time with his family in the village. Beryl thinks it's a big change for him, reminding him that he's a platinum-ranked adventurer, but he notes that it was Beryl's training that got him that far. Beryl's father thinks they're lucky to have him back, because he knows their training style, so he can take over as the dojo master while Beryl is away. The next day, Beryl goes back to the capital, and tells Alucia he can't return to his home, so he needs a place to stay. He mentions that the tavern she booked for him is too expensive, so she tells him he can stay at her place, but he notes that he can't do that. She invites him to have lunch together, but a woman named Lysandra suddenly insults her for walking around the town with a man. He thinks he's making her look bad, so he covers his face, and she tells Lysandra to mind her own business. But she checks him out, and he sees a plate around her neck, so he realizes that she's a black-ranked adventurer. But she immediately recognizes him as her master, and asks him if he still remembers her, reminding him that he took her in and taught her how to use a sword. He realizes that she was the girl he saved 20 years ago, and she notes that she wanted to tell him about her success, but she never got the chance. He's glad to see that she's doing well, but she wonders why he's with Alucia, so she explains that she's helping him find a place to stay. Lysandra mentions that she's a broker, so she can help him find an inn, telling Alucia she isn't even familiar with the taverns in the town. They help Beryl find a place to stay, and he thanks them for their help, but he tells them to be nice to each other. They bid him farewell, and he notes that he's too old to enjoy a sudden change in life, but he's glad that his old students are there to take care of him. We see the vice commander named Hendlitz, who's sparring with a knight, and he defeats him by destroying his sword. Alucia tells everyone to prepare for serious training, because Beryl will start teaching them. But Hendlitz thinks he isn't strong enough to teach them, and he challenges him to a duel. They prepare to fight, and Beryl thinks he's about to get wrecked, but he decides to do his best anyway. Hendlitz starts attacking him, and Beryl realizes he has incredible strength, but it's easy to block his attacks, because his moves are predictable. He rushes forward, but Beryl deflects his sword, and accidentally hits his head. The knights think he got lucky, and Handblitz becomes upset, so he starts fighting seriously, but Beryl still manages to predict his movements and parries his attack. Handblitz uses his ultimate move, which has defeated countless knights, and he creates a tornado as he attacks with everything he has. But he misses, and Beryl lands a hit on him from behind, so Handblitz realizes he's no match for him. He admits defeat, telling Beryl he's amazing, and everyone can't believe what just happened. At night, Beryl drinks with the knights, and Handblitz notes that he's ashamed because he doubted Beryl's abilities. He asks Beryl how he countered his ultimate move, so he explains that he just matched his spin, telling Handblitz he would have won if his movements weren't so rigid. We see Beryl's father with Randrid, who mentions that he wants to help Beryl make a name for himself. He notes that he's been traveling as an adventurer, but he's never met a better swordsman than Beryl, and his father thinks it's about time everyone learned about his talents. The knights start training, and Beryl interrupts two of them, telling them to let their opponents focus on their swords so that they can make subtle movements without being noticed. But he realizes that everyone stopped to listen to him, and he thinks his advice isn't worth their attention. After that, Handblitz gives Beryl a towel, and he thinks everyone believes in him because he managed to win the duel. Kuruni offers to show him around the capital, and he notes that he doesn't go around much. Handblitz thinks it's a shame, telling him Baltrain is a beautiful city, so he decides to go with her. Alucia reports to her superiors, who ask her if Beryl is doing well, so she tells them he has exceeded her expectations. After the meeting, she recalls that she became a commander because she wanted to help Beryl make a name for himself. In a flashback, Alucia's parents take her to Beryl's dojo because they want her to learn how to protect herself. She starts training with the other students, but struggles to keep up with them because she isn't used to the routine. But she enjoys every moment of it, and she eventually becomes stronger. She spars with Beryl, but she realizes he doesn't have an opening, and she tries to attack him, but he defeats her in an instant. He tells her she has good instincts because she attacked at the right moment, and she thinks he's amazing, but she believes he's just as good as the other masters. One day, Beryl and his students head to another dojo, where they train with the students of another swordmaster. Her classmates easily defeat them, and when it's her turn, she realizes that her opponent is wide open. She dodges his attacks, and he pushes her back, but she manages to score a point, and she can't believe how easy it was to defeat him. After that, Beryl and his students make their way home, and Alucia can't believe they defeated everyone at the dojo. But he tells her to focus on what she learned, instead of thinking about the results. She realizes she forgot her hairpin, so she runs back to the dojo, but she sees that the students have it, and they refuse to give it to her. They start bullying her, and their leader tries to hit her, but Beryl suddenly appears, and he pushes them back. He takes her hairpin, and their leader prepares to attack him, but their master suddenly arrives to stop them, telling them they're no match for Beryl. He apologizes for his students' actions, but Beryl tells him it's okay. He walks home with Alucia, and tells her he went to the dojo because he had a feeling something bad was going to happen. She notes that she caused trouble for him, but he explains that she did nothing wrong, telling her he's glad she didn't get hurt. She starts crying, so he tries to cheer her up, asking her if she wants to eat something. But she tells him it isn't the problem, and we learn that she's crying because her heart is filled with emotion. Alucia spars with Beryl again, and she manages to defeat him, so he gives her the farewell sword, telling her he has nothing left to teach her. She knows that she's still nothing compared to him, but she accepts his decision and takes the sword. After she leaves the dojo, she's determined to prove that Beryl is the greatest swordsman, and she takes the exam to join the order. She wipes the floor with the other candidates, and even the examiners are no match for her, because they're nothing compared to Beryl. She enters the order with top marks, and becomes the commander after 10 years, but she wants everyone to recognize her master's talents, so she makes him the special instructor. We return to the present, as Handblitz notes that Beryl is an excellent teacher. Alucia realizes he isn't with the knights, so Handblitz mentions that Kuruni is showing him around the capital. We see Beryl walking around the market, when a girl named Ficelle suddenly calls him her master. But he doesn't recognize her, so she shows him her farewell sword, which makes him realize she graduated from his dojo. He finally remembers her, telling her he wasn't able to recognize her because of how much she's changed. She notes that it's been 5 years since they last saw each other, and Kuruni mentions that she's now the star of the Magic Corps. She reveals that she's shopping for magic accessories, and she takes a fire ring, as Kuruni notes that even an amateur can use it to cast spells. But she reveals that she doesn't need it to use magic, and Beryl is surprised to learn that she's actually a mage. He knows that only a few people can become mages, and he's sad that she left her swordsmanship days behind, but he's still proud of her. A thief suddenly steals a woman's purse, so Ficelle takes out her sword and uses it to cast a spell, which binds the man's legs. Kuruni captures him, and Beryl is impressed by their teamwork, telling Ficelle her magic is amazing. She reveals that she uses her sword to launch her spells, so she still uses the sword skills he taught her, and he can't believe she can use magic like that. That evening, Beryl walks around the town, but a mage named Lucy suddenly calls him, and she reveals that she's the commander of the Magic Corps. He thinks she's just a little girl, but she shows him her magic, so he realizes she's telling the truth. She reveals that Ficelle told her about him, so she knows that he's her master, and she takes him to an open area. She reveals that she's fond of magic, so she practices every day, but she mentions that she wants to test what she studied, and she suddenly attacks him. She's impressed by his reflexes, because he dodged the explosion, but she attacks him with her fireballs. He struggles to avoid them, but he manages to close the distance and prepares to hit her, but she surrounds herself with flames, telling him she won't let him get too close. She continues attacking with her fireballs, and he runs away to dodge them as she asks him if he's ever fought a mage before. But he notes that it's his first time, realizing that mages are a bad match for him. She summons a giant block of ice to crush him, but he manages to deflect it at her, so she blasts it with her flames. He suddenly appears in front of her, but she uses her lightning to push him back, and tells him she saved the best for last. He tries to walk forward, but he suddenly freaks out, as he realizes that she's surrounded by a dark energy. He thinks he won't survive if her spell hits him, but she tells him to forget about it, revealing that she just wanted to see how he would react. He wonders what would have happened if her spell hit him, so she reveals that it would have destroyed him in an instant. But she acknowledges his strength, telling him she understands why Ficelle looks up to him. He reveals that he's been training for years, but still can't defeat his father, so he thinks he still has a long way to go. She wonders why he isn't angry, because her attacks could have killed him, but he doesn't seem to care. So she laughs at him, telling him to drop by the Magic Institute during his free time, because she wants to make it up to him. The next day, Beryl meets Ficelle, who shows him magic potions, and she tells him to take one of them, telling him Lucy wants to give it to him to apologize for what happened yesterday. She reveals that Lucy uses magic to maintain her youthful appearance, so nobody knows how old she is, and Ficelle apologizes for telling her about him. He notes that he almost died when he fought her, so he doesn't want to fight another mage, and Ficelle reveals that she's nothing like the other mages, because her magic is on another level. After that, Lysandra tells Beryl that the guildmaster needs his help to train new adventurers, telling him he needs to check their skills and train them to deal with emergencies. We learn that he wanted to become an adventurer when he was young, so he tried to raid a dungeon alone, but he barely made it back alive. So he knows that dungeons are dangerous, but Lysandra is confident that he can protect the new adventurers. He heads to the Adventurers Guild, but Beryl wonders what Lucy is doing there, so Lysandra reveals that she knows the guildmaster well. The guildmaster introduces himself as Nidus, and he mentions that he trusts Beryl, because Lysandra and Lucy vouched for him. But his assistant Maine notes that he doesn't trust Beryl, because he has no experience as an adventurer. He suggests testing his abilities by making him fight Lysandra, and everyone thinks it's a great idea. Nidus asks Beryl if it's okay with him, and we learn that he doesn't want to do it, but he thinks he can't say no in front of them, so he decides to just go with it. Beryl prepares to fight Lysandra, and he thinks he's no match for her, because she's a black rank adventurer, but she notes that she's been waiting for this moment. In a flashback, we see Lysandra traveling with her parents, when they suddenly get attacked by a massive beast. Her mother pushes her off their carriage and tells her to run, but she ends up falling into a river. Beryl ends up saving her, and takes her to his home, where he asks her about her parents. But she suddenly starts screaming, as she recalls how the beast attacked them, so he tells her to rest. She starts living with him, and watches him as he practices his swings, so he asks her if she wants to try it. He realizes she's interested, so he teaches her how to wield a sword. He makes her join his other students in the dojo, and he notes that she's light on her feet, so he suggests for her to use twin swords. They eventually find a new home for her, so she thanks Beryl for everything he did for her, and her new parents take her away. We learn that she didn't want to leave him, but she didn't want to be selfish, knowing how much he had already done for her. She becomes an adventurer, and everyone's impressed by how fast she moves through the ranks. The caravan she's protecting gets attacked by bandits, but she immediately takes them out, and we learn that she became an adventurer because she didn't want people to suffer like she did. We return to the present, as Lysandra bows before Beryl, so he realizes that she still remembers what he taught her. She rushes forward, but he blocks her attacks, and he realizes that she's ridiculously fast. She's impressed that she can't hit him because she's attacking him with her full power, and she enjoys the fight as he realizes that she never stopped training. But he finds her weakness and removes the knife from her left hand before taking her down. Everyone realizes he won the fight, and she tells him he's amazing, but he notes that he would have lost if he didn't see her weakness, telling her she still hasn't mastered using her left hand. Maine apologizes for doubting him, and Nidus tells him to look after the new recruits. The next day, Lysandra and Beryl meet the newbies, and Beryl realizes they look nervous. One of them, named Sorrel, mentions that there are 6 monsters nearby, and Beryl realizes he's using a magical accessory which allows him to detect monsters. They easily defeat a group of goblins, so Beryl realizes they're capable fighters, and they're able to clear the dungeon without his help. But they wonder why there were only a few monsters in the dungeon, and Sorrel's detector suddenly shatters, so he realizes that something's wrong. The newbie named Porta mentions that it's time to leave, but a massive creature suddenly attacks him. Lysandra recognizes it as a specially designated target called Zeno, realizing it's the reason why there were only a few monsters in the dungeon. Beryl thinks he's no match for it, and she reveals that she brought potions with her, so he plans to use one to save Porta while she fights it. He tries to tell her about his plan, but she misunderstands him and takes Porta to the dungeon. He realizes she got it the other way around, and Zeno attacks Beryl, so he realizes he needs to fight it. He parries its attacks and tries to slice off its legs, but he realizes that he can't cut through its scales. He thinks he can't defeat it, but he knows that he needs to buy time for Lysandra and Porta to escape, so he fights on, and it attacks him with its tail. He manages to slice it off, so it becomes angry and charges at him, but he rides on its back and it flies into the air as it tries to shake him off. But he manages to hang on, so it comes back down, and uses its powers to surround itself with lava. He escapes to higher ground, but the lava spreads to the dungeon, and we see the newbie named Nidri as she drags Porta away. But she realizes that the lava is already above them, so she freaks out, and Beryl hears her screaming, realizing he needs to defeat the Zeno quickly. He charges in, as it tries to blast him with its flames, but he manages to stab it in the eye. But it shakes him off, and he realizes his sword was broken, so he thinks he's in trouble. But Lysandra suddenly appears above them, and she dives down and manages to take it out. She thanks Beryl for his help, telling him she couldn't have defeated it without him, but she realizes that his sword is broken. The newbies come out of the cave, and he's glad that everyone was able to survive. They return to the Adventurers Guild, and Nidus is surprised that they were able to defeat the Zeno, but Lysandra notes that they wouldn't have survived if it weren't for Beryl. So Nidus thanks him for saving them and invites him to become an adventurer, but he mentions that he isn't interested. After that, Lysandra tells Beryl that he deserves to be more than just an adventurer and apologizes for causing trouble for him, telling him he got involved because she told everyone about his greatness. She's glad that she was able to fight by his side, but he mentions that they survived because she made the right decisions, telling her she has grown up. Kuruni and Alucia take Beryl to a blacksmith, and he immediately recognizes him as his student Balder, who was the oldest student to ever enroll in his dojo. He notes that Balder joined the class because he wanted to know what it's like to wield a sword, but Beryl knows that he always wanted to be a blacksmith, so he congratulates him for achieving his dream. Kuruni tells him to sharpen her sword, but he realizes it's in terrible condition, so he tells her it needs to be replaced. Beryl asks her how she feels when she holds a short sword, and she tells him it's light, so he realizes it isn't the right weapon for her, because she can't wield it properly if she can't feel its weight. He suggests using a two-handed sword, and she tells him it isn't that heavy, so he thinks it's perfect for her. She decides to buy it, and Beryl starts looking for a sword he can use, but Lysandra suddenly joins them and tells Balder to make a sword using Zeno's leg. But he wonders why she wants him to do that, because she already has the perfect weapon for her, so she reveals that the sword is for Beryl. He reminds her that she killed the Zeno, so he thinks she should have the sword, but she wants him to have it, since his sword was broken during the fight. Balder thinks he can make the perfect weapon with the leg, but notes that he needs a week to finish it, because he wants to give it everything he has. Later that day, Beryl teaches Kuruni how to wield her sword, telling her to swing it with her hips. She starts practicing how to use it, and notes that it takes her back, because she used to do it back when she was at the dojo. That evening, we see Beryl walking around the town, when a girl named Mui suddenly tries to steal his money. But he stops her, and refuses to let her go, so she uses her magic to escape. She returns to her hideout, and gives them the money she stole, but they realize it isn't worth much, so they wonder if she's slacking off. But their leader notes that she wouldn't do that, because she needs to earn her keep. She realizes that she lost her necklace, and Beryl picks it up, thinking he can use it to find her. We see the knights training together, while Beryl spars with Henblitz, who uses a feint before trying to attack him. But he still manages to block it, and he defeats Henblitz, telling him he has improved, because his attacks are less predictable. He mentions that the Order needs to improve its fighting power, because a group of thieves known as the Dark Hand of Twilight have been committing crimes in the capital. He notes that everyone's looking for their lair, and Beryl shows him the necklace he found, revealing that a thief dropped it after he stopped her. He mentions that she used a flame spell to escape, but Kuruni wonders why she tried to steal from him if she can use magic, because she could make a fortune with her magical talents. Henblitz thinks she used a magic accessory she stole to cast the spell, and suggests taking the necklace to the reception desk at the headquarters, because they take care of lost property. Beryl decides to go with his advice, and he walks around the town, but he sees Mui looking for her necklace. So he tells her he knows where to find it, and she demands that he give it back. He tells her to calm down, and reveals that he left it at the headquarters, asking her if she stole it, so she explains that it isn't the case. He decides to help her get it back, but tells her she should stop stealing. He shows her the necklace, and promises to give it to her after they talk. Alucia joins them, and Beryl explains the situation to her, but notes that he doesn't want to turn Mui in, because he knows that she's a good person at heart. He tells her to stop stealing, but she refuses, and Alucia notes that the country will take care of her if she has a talent for magic, telling her she wants to help her. He notes that they aren't trying to trick her, and promises to give her the necklace if she tells them about her situation. So she reveals that she needs to pay 5 million to a mage, who told her he could use his magic to bring her sister back to life. She explains that she turned to crime because she doesn't have that much money, and they know she's being tricked. Alucia excuses herself, and Beryl realizes that Mui is hungry, so he gives her some food, and tells her everything will be okay. He gives back her necklace, and realizes she's happy, but Alucia suddenly returns with Lucy, who asks her if she has talent for magic. Lucy mentions that she needs more mages, and introduces herself as the commander of the Magic Corps, but Mui thinks she's lying. So Lucy tells her to calm down and drink her tea, but she realizes that it's gone cold, so she uses her magic to heat it up. Mui realizes she's the real deal, and she tells Mui to join the Magic Institute, but she explains that she doesn't have time for that, because she needs to make 5 million to resurrect her sister. Lucy tells her resurrection magic doesn't exist, but Mui doesn't believe her, because she saw the mage bring her sister's corpse back to life. But Lucy tells her she can't trust him, and asks for his name, promising to give her 5 million if she finds out he's telling the truth. So Mui reveals that he's called Twilight, and Lucy wants to meet him, asking to visit their lair. Alucia wants to join them, but Lucy notes that she'll stand out since she's a knight, and she wants to take Beryl with them instead. He thinks she doesn't need his help, but she knows that he wants to come along, so he notes that he wants to stop Twilight, because he's preying on children. Mui leads them to Twilight's hideout, and she suggests using the hidden entrance, because the front door is locked. But Lucy blasts it open, and they see a group of thieves inside. One of them tries to stop her, but she sends him flying, telling them she's there to talk to their leader. She tells Beryl to take care of them, and she heads downstairs, as the thieves wonder if he's looking down on them, because he's using a wooden sword. One of them tries to attack Mui, but Beryl protects her, and they start fighting him, while Lucy meets Twilight. She knows that he's lying to Mui, and he recognizes her as the commander of the Magic Corps, but he isn't afraid of her, and he summons blocks of ice to crush her. But she melts them with her flames, realizing he's relying on magical accessories to cast his spells. He uses telekinesis with his bracelet, and she realizes that he used it to trick Mui by moving her sister's corpse. He summons a fireball to attack her, but her dark energy suddenly appears, and he instantly gets knocked down. She notes that his toys are no match for the real thing, and we see that Beryl has defeated the thieves. Lucy returns to the entrance and reveals that Twilight is still alive, but he can't move because of her spell. She threatens to torture him if he doesn't tell them the truth, and he admits that resurrection magic doesn't exist, so Mui realizes he lied to her. Lucy leaves to call the authorities, and Mui realizes that her sister's body is no longer there, so her necklace is the only thing she has left. She wonders what she should do next, because she doesn't know what will happen to her, and she isn't sure if she can trust adults anymore. But Beryl tells her that not everyone is like Twilight, telling her there are good people in this world, and she believes he's one of them, so she thinks she can trust him. That evening, we see the thieves preparing to be transported, and Lucy notes that someone must be controlling Twilight, because he had access to countless magical accessories. The carriage is about to leave, but we see an assassin hiding in an alley, and he uses a spell to kill Twilight. The assassin reports to his master, telling him the job was easy because they installed a magical device in Twilight's body. The master notes that they no longer need him, and he mentions that he'll use the materials they acquired to recreate the miracle of God with his own hands. The next day, Alucia tells Beryl about Twilight's death, revealing that a magical accessory was found inside his remains. Beryl receives his new sword, and Kuruni thinks it's perfect for him, telling him she wants to see how sharp it is, and he's excited to give it a try. We see Beryl and Kuruni making their way to the training hall when they meet Lucy, who mentions that she wants to talk to Beryl. She takes him to her mansion, where he meets a priest from the Church of Sphene named Ibroy. Beryl wonders what he's doing there, knowing he's from a neighboring country called Svendavania. So she notes that Twilight's accessories were made in his country, and he reveals that Bishop Revius was the one who gave them to Twilight. He knows that Twilight agreed to collect bodies for Revius in exchange, so that he can use them to work on Sphene's miracle. Lucy reveals that the church refers to magic as miracles, and Ibroy notes that their god performed the greatest miracle, which is the resurrection of the dead. But he notes that it's just a legend, and he doesn't believe it's possible to bring the dead back to life, so he thinks Revius is using the dead bodies for his research. Lucy knows that he's currently in the capital, and notes that the Order wants to call him as a witness tomorrow, but she thinks he might flee back to his country. She explains that if the authorities arrest him, it could develop into an international incident, and Ibroy notes that he can't do anything to a bishop because he's just a priest. They need Beryl to capture Revius because he's the only one who can move freely, and he accepts the task because he wants to help Mui find her sister. As he prepares to leave, he's surprised to see Mui, and she asks him what he's doing there. So he reveals that he talked to Lucy, and he's glad she's doing well, but she wonders why everyone's so nice to her because she thinks she's a terrible person. But he tells her not to worry about it, telling her to relax and enjoy herself as a kid while the adults take care of her. At night, we see Revius preparing to leave with his men, while Beryl watches them, realizing he's planning to escape. Beryl tries to sneak up on him, but a knight named Spur sees him, recognizing him as the man who defeated Twilight's minions. He wonders where Revius is going, because he has been called in to testify tomorrow, but Spur calls his men, and grants them permission to use miracles. So they pray to their god, and a strange light surrounds their bodies, as they start attacking Beryl. He realizes that the miracle boosts their stats, and thinks he won't survive unless he fights seriously. One of them rushes forward, but Beryl dodges his attack and cuts through his armor, as he realizes that his sword is extremely sharp. The knights surround him, but a magic blast suddenly hits them, forcing them to retreat. Ficelle and Kuruni join the fight, but he wonders what they're doing there, so they reveal that they were just passing by. They defeat the knights, and one of them clashes with Beryl, but he suddenly collapses, as Ficelle notes that their magic has timed out. She tells him to go on ahead, while she and Kuruni deal with the knights, so he makes his way to the church, where he sees Revius with Spur. Revius recites a prayer, and tells Beryl to experience Sphene's miracle, as the dead bodies come back to life. He's surprised to see that one of them is Mui's sister, and they surround him, as one of them tries to attack him. So he cuts the man's leg, realizing he has no choice but to take them out. But the man clings to him, and the others prepare to eat him, so he cuts their heads off, causing them to disappear. Mui's sister is the only one left, and he puts her out of her misery, allowing her to rest in peace. He takes her necklace and starts crying, but Spur suddenly uses his miracle to boost his stats, and starts attacking Beryl, who struggles to keep up with him. He manages to land a hit, and Beryl realizes that Spur is the strongest swordsman he's ever fought so far, but he wants to punish him for messing with the lives of others. Beryl rushes forward, and he cuts Spur's arm, but he stabs himself with his knife, which boosts his stats even further. He charges at Beryl and starts attacking relentlessly, and Beryl starts to be overwhelmed. But he's determined not to lose the fight, and he sees an opening as Spur charges at him. He moves to the side as he dodges Spur's attack, and manages to land a decisive blow. Spur falls to his knees, but he gets back up, and Beryl wonders how he can still move, because he should be mortally wounded. Spur mentions that he's willing to sacrifice his life for what he believes in, but he collapses as his body reaches its limit. After that, Beryl sees that Kuruni and Ficelle were able to arrest Revius, who can't believe Spur was defeated. Beryl mentions that he won't forgive them for what they did, but Revius notes that his country is doomed unless the church gains strength, saying their mission was to use miracles to save the world. The next day, Lucy tells Beryl she'll reward him for completing the mission, and she shows him a house, which she tells him he can have. As he looks inside, he sees Mui cleaning, and Lucy notes that she decided to enroll in the magic school. So she mentions she'll be living with him, and he'll also be serving as her guardian. So they start living together, and he prepares food for her, but he apologizes for the late breakfast, telling her he still isn't used to cooking. She tells him it's okay, and he asks her what she wants to eat, but she notes that anything edible is fine. He offers to do her laundry, but she decides to do it herself, and he thinks about how her clothes smell bad, because she doesn't use soap when washing them. She asks him if she can use the toilet, but he tells her she doesn't need to ask permission, because the house is also her home. Beryl shows Mui around the town, but he thinks it will be difficult for them to live together, because she's always on her guard. So he tries to break the ice by taking her to the theater, where they watch a play for the first time. They discuss how the protagonists were annoying, but they both enjoyed their performance, and Beryl thinks they might get closer if they continue to spend time together. The next day, they head to the magic school, where a teacher named Canara greets them, and she offers to show them around. She takes them to the hallway, where she asks Beryl who invited them to the academy, so he reveals that it was Lucy, and Canara notes that she's their principal. The students greet her, and he realizes they're polite, while she explains that they might become the country's leading wizards in the future, so the school teaches them manners as part of the curriculum. She notes that Mui is exempted from the aptitude test, because she has a letter of recommendation from the principal, but she asks her if she has decided on her magic major. She mentions that she can only produce flames, so Canara notes that offensive magic is perfect for her, explaining that it's one of the 5 systems of magic. She asks Mui to decide if she wants to stay in the school dormitory, and Beryl mentions that he wants to see it. So she takes them to the dorm, revealing that it has a dining hall, where they feed the students every day, and they even have a bath where the students can relax. Beryl realizes it's amazing, and as they make their way back, he thinks about letting Mui stay there, but he isn't sure if she can adjust to living with other kids. He sees a sausage restaurant, but he realizes it's full, so he thinks about leaving, but Lysandra suddenly invites them to sit with her. She asks him about Mui, so he reveals that he's her guardian, and Lysandra is shocked hearing this. She reveals that adventurers have been hunting monsters recently, because they want to get rid of them before the delegation from Svendovania arrive for their annual meeting. After their meal, Beryl tells Lysandra that Mui will be going to magic school, and he wants Lysandra to motivate her, but she scares her when she tells her that she'll be up against the best mages in the country. But Lysandra tells her she can't lose, since Beryl is her guardian, and she notes that he's a great person. Mui heads back home, as Lysandra notes that she has potential, thinking she'll go far because she isn't a bad person. Beryl visits Alucia, telling her Mui will start going to magic school, and he doesn't know if he should let her move to the dorm. Kuruni thinks he should let her stay there, but he's worried that she'll have a hard time living with other people. So Henblitz tells him he should let her step out of her comfort zone, and Alucia also thinks she should stay in the dorm. Beryl visits Lucy and asks her the same question, but Ficelle joins them and notes that it's convenient to live in the dorm. Lucy notes that Ficelle might become Mui's teacher, and he tells her she's amazing, but he starts to think he's pathetic. Lucy is about to give him her opinion, but he suddenly walks off, so Ficelle wonders what's wrong with him. We learn that Beryl wanted to be a parent figure for Mui, and he recalls that he was happy when he learned that she would be staying with him. But he knows that she liked the dorm, and he thinks he can't call himself a parent if he doesn't put her future first. Beryl returns home, and Mui tells him she heard a strange noise behind the drawer, so he lifts it to the side, and they see rats coming out of a hole. She thinks they should just leave them alone, but Beryl opens the doors and windows, and prepares to get rid of them. He notes that they're dangerous, because she might get sick if they bite her, but she thinks they can't hurt her, revealing that she used to see them every day. But he notes that he won't let her return to her old life, and he forces one of the rats to leave their house. But the others hide under the dining table, so he flips it, and it traps one of them, which allows him to catch it. He throws it outside, and goes after the last one, which hides in his bathtub, so he tries to grab it with his bare hands, but he struggles to catch it, since he can't predict its movements. It's about to escape, but Mui stops it with her flames, and he manages to grab it. He can't believe she just helped him, but it bites his hand, so he throws it away, and covers the hole with a rat-repelling ball. He starts preparing food, as he thinks about how Mui helped him get rid of the rats, so he thinks she might be able to live in the dorm with her current attitude. She offers to help him cook the food, and starts peeling the vegetables, as he notes that he's sad, because she's about to move out. As they have dinner, Mui reveals that she helped him prepare the food, because she wanted to learn how to cook. He thinks she's doing it for her future, but she notes that she needs to pick things up right away, so he reminds her that the dorm will provide food for her. But she notes that she has decided not to stay there, because she wants to help him around the house, telling him to talk to her if he needs help. He becomes surprised hearing this, and she reveals that she enjoys hot food, so he decides to make soup and stew for her every day. After that, Alucia tells Beryl they need to buy new clothes for him, and notes that the delegation from Svendovania will arrive in Baltrain. But he mentions that Lysandra already told him about it, and Alucia can't believe she beat her to it. She reveals that the Order's mission is to protect the VIPs while the delegation is in the capital, and Beryl wonders if Revius will attend the meeting. So Handblitz mentions that he won't, because the church doesn't handle the country's diplomatic matters, telling him it's the responsibility of the parliament, which is headed by the royal family. Alucia asks Beryl to meet the royal families of both countries, and he thinks the task is too much for him, but she reminds him that he's their special instructor, who was given the royal seal of approval. She adds that he needs to dress appropriately, since he'll meet the royal family, and she knows that he isn't familiar with the clothing stores in the capital, so she tells him to go shopping with her. Beryl returns home, and he opens a package, realizing Ibroy sent him clothes to thank him for dealing with Revius. He tells Mui she can have them, and they have dinner together, as he notes that he needs to go shopping with Alucia tomorrow. He invites Mui to join them, telling her Alucia is a good person, but she mentions that she isn't interested. The next day, Beryl meets Alucia, who notes that she decided not to wear her armor, because they're going to a clothing store. Handblitz and Karuni spy on them, wondering which store they'll visit, and they head to the central district, where Alucia takes Beryl to a store. But he doesn't know how to pick clothes, so he lets her choose for him, and she picks out a jacket. But he doesn't like it, because he thinks it looks too fancy. He's worried that he'll end up wearing flashy clothes if he doesn't do anything, so he picks a suit, but she tells him it looks too plain. He notes that it looks comfortable, but she thinks they should keep looking around, and invites him to have lunch with her. They head to a fancy restaurant, where the waiter gives them their food, and Beryl notes that the presentation is beautiful. Handblitz and Karuni continue to follow them, and they realize that Alucia looks happy, thinking it's because she's with Beryl. Later that day, we see that they ended up buying the suit Beryl picked, and he apologizes for making her show him the other stores, but she's just glad that they were able to spend time together. He thanks her for her time, and she watches him as he walks away, but Handblitz suddenly approaches her, and admits that he was spying on her. She tells him it's okay, and he asks her about her relationship with Beryl, but she notes that she just wants to make her master happy. The next day, we see Handblitz watching the Knight's train, and Karuni apologizes for running away yesterday, because she didn't know what to do after he went to talk to Alucia. He tells her it's okay, but Alucia suddenly joins them, so Karuni leaves to go and practice. Alucia reveals that she plans to challenge Beryl to a duel, so that he can show his skills to everyone before he meets the royal family. Handblitz wonders if that's her only reason for fighting him, so she notes that she wants to share her desire with him if she wins, and mentions that she needs to prepare for her fight. Karuni thinks she's planning to confess her feelings to him, and Handblitz thinks nobody would turn her down, because she's perfect. Beryl appears, and he realizes that everyone's working hard, but Alucia challenges him to a duel, telling him she wants to train with him before the delegation arrives. He accepts her challenge, so they prepare to fight, and he thinks he can't defeat her if she goes all out, since she's now the commander of the Knights. She reveals that she's known as Lightning Fast Alucia, and as Handblitz begins the fight, she charges him with ridiculous speed, but Beryl still manages to block her attack. She notes that most of her fights end in an instant, and he struggles to read her moves, realizing she's fighting him with all she's got. She continues to attack him, but he pushes her back, and she notes that it's the first time her strikes have ever been blocked 3 times. But he barely manages to defend himself, and thinks he can't keep parrying her moves, so he tries to go on the offensive. But she continues her relentless assault, and he doesn't want to lose to her, because he knows that she'll become an even better swordsman if he defeats her. She mentions that she's happy, since she can show him the skills she learned after she left the dojo, and Handblitz thinks she has the advantage, because Beryl is barely holding his own. He focuses on her technique, and he finally manages to read her movements, realizing she's using her knees to improve her speed, but he thinks knowing that won't help him, because her eagle eyes allow her to dodge his attacks. He realizes that he can't beat her in a fair fight, and he parries her attack once again, but he leaves himself wide open, so she prepares to finish him off. But he suddenly grabs onto her cape and pulls her to the ground, allowing him to win the fight. Karuni thinks he cheated, but Handblitz notes that a real battle has no rules, and Beryl is the only one strong enough to use that move against Alucia. He mentions that her swordsmanship is too clean, telling her to be careful of opponents who fight dirty, and he hears the bell ringing, so he leaves to eat lunch. Karuni tells her their battle was intense, thinking she'll never reach their level, and she wonders if Alucia was planning to confess her feelings if she won the fight. She mentions that she just wanted to ask him to buy clothes for her, and Kuruni leaves to get lunch, but Himblitz knows that Alucia lied to her. So she notes that she wants to make Beryl happy, but she's okay if she isn't the one who brings him happiness. We see Beryl eating with Mui, and he tells her about his fight with Alucia, telling her she went all out. Mui thinks she wanted him to keep his eyes on her, and she believes that Alucia likes him, but he mentions that he's too old for her. Mui sees Beryl drinking from his wooden mug, and she notices that it's damaged, but he tells her it isn't a big deal, since he can still drink from it. She shows him her school uniform, and tells him she borrowed her books, so she needs to be careful not to get them dirty. He knows that she'll start going to school next week, but he realizes that she doesn't have a bag, so he decides to buy one for her before her first day. Meanwhile, Lysandra receives a request from the guild, and they tell her a unit of platinum rankers tracked down a monster. They have it cornered in a forest near the capital, but they still haven't made their move, telling her they need her help to capture it. She thinks she isn't up to the task, but someone suddenly knocks at the door and tells her she has a visitor. We return to Beryl as he heads to a bag store, and the shopkeeper shows him his items. Beryl picks a school bag for Mui, but the shopkeeper reveals that it's worth 95,000, and he can't believe how expensive it is. The shopkeeper notes that he has cheaper items for sale, but Beryl doesn't like them, and he can't make up his mind. He knows he can't afford it with his current salary, and he thinks he'll need more money to raise Mui, so he needs to be frugal. But he wants her to have a nice bag, so he wonders what he can do to make money. He bumps into Lysandra, who reveals that she was given a difficult task, and she thinks she can't do it alone, so she asks him if he can help her. He thinks he can't be useful to her, but she promises to reward him, so he decides to join her. They make their way to the forest, and Lysandra reveals that they need to capture a horse, which will be presented to the royal family of Svendavania. He notes that she's also helping him out, because he needs money to cover his expenses, so she realizes that her timing is perfect. An adventurer tells them the horse is still in the forest, and she tells him to focus on the perimeter while she captures their target. She gives Beryl hunting tools, and they start looking for the horse, as she notes that it has a white coat and a silver mane. She explains that they need to capture it unarmed, which is why the job is so difficult, and she notes that a unit of platinum rank adventurers can't finish it, so they asked for her help. She admits that she wasn't confident that she could complete the task, and she's glad that he joined her, telling him he increases her powers 1,000-fold. They see hoofprints on the ground, and she notes that there's a spring nearby, thinking the horse will go there to drink water, so she suggests setting up an ambush. They reach the spring, and Lysandra tells Beryl they'll surround the horse when it appears, so that she can shoot it from behind, revealing that horses are afraid of attacks from the rear. So it will rush forward as soon as she launches her arrow, telling Beryl to immobilize it when it tries to get away. He's worried that it will get injured if the arrow hits it, but she tells him not to worry, because the tip is made of cloth. They split up to catch the horse, and they see it drinking water, so Lysandra attacks it with her arrow, and it rushes forward, so Beryl prepares to capture it, but it suddenly jumps past him. He blocks its path, and tries to stop it with his net, but he misses, and the horse is about to get away, but he manages to get on its back. He tries to ride it, but he falls off, and Lysandra tries to catch it with her lasso, but it runs away. It reaches a cliff, where they try to capture it again, but it jumps on top of a giant rock, and they realize that they can't reach it. But the rock suddenly collapses, and it's about to fall off the cliff, but Beryl jumps after the horse. They both survive the fall, and he tells the horse to calm down, as he wonders how they can get to the other side, because the water will sweep them away if they try to swim. He cuts a tree, and it connects them to the other side, so they use it to get across, but Beryl suddenly slips. The horse catches him before he falls, so he realizes that it has a good side, and they see Lysandra, who realizes that he has tamed it. They return to the capital, where Nidus thanks Beryl for saving the guild, revealing that royal requests can make or break their reputation. Lysandra gives him his reward, and thanks him for taming the horse, revealing that she was jealous of Mui, but she now plans to cheer her on, telling Beryl he'll receive something when he gets home. After that, Beryl gives Mui the bag he bought, and she seems to like it, so he tells her to try it on. He mentions that it looks great on her, and hopes it becomes useful to her in the future, but she reveals that she bought a ceramic mug for him, telling him she worked hard for it. She notes that Lysandra helped her get a job, and she now makes a living by washing dishes. But he wonders why she decided to buy it for him, so she reminds him that his other mug was damaged. She tells him to give it a try, and he realizes that it makes his drink taste better, but he can't believe she worked just to buy it for him. She explains that she can't do anything to help him while she's at school, so she thought she could get rid of his fatigue by giving him something better to drink from. The next day, Mui leaves for her first day at school, and he trains the knights, but Alucia tells him that the commander and vice-commander of the Church of Sphene have arrived. She explains that they want to meet their counterparts before the delegation arrives, and she asks him to join them, but he doesn't trust them because he doesn't know how they dealt with Revius. But he decides to join her anyway, because he wants to find out what's going on. Beryl meets the commander of the Church of Sphene, but his vice-commander recognizes him as her master, and Beryl recognizes her as his old student Rose. He recalls that she trained in his dojo a few years ago, and she was able to graduate after a year and a half. The commander of the Holy Order named Gatoga can't believe Alucia and Rose have the same master, and Beryl notes that he was blessed with amazing students. Alucia wonders what happened to the previous vice-commander Hennis, and Gatoga tells her it's a long story, but Hendlitz wonders why he decided to visit them. So he explains that he wants Rose to familiarize herself with Baltrain, and she reveals that she's never been there before, and she asks Beryl to show her around. We see Beryl after he finishes training the knights, and he thinks about going home, but he sees Rose waiting for him, and she tells him she wants to spend time with him. So they walk around the city, as he wonders when she joined the Holy Order, so she reveals that Gatoga recruited her after she left the dojo, because he knew she had talent as a swordsman. She notes that she enjoyed the moments when he taught her how to use a sword, and they head to the market, where she tells him she wants to move there, because it seems like a nice town. She tells him to take her in if she moves, and he thinks she'll get along with Mui, because she has a quality that attracts kids. She mentions that she needs to leave, so they part ways, and he returns to the clothing store, where he wears the suit he picked, but we learn that he isn't used to wearing expensive clothes. Beryl returns home, and Mui is surprised to see him wearing his suit, so he explains that he just picked it up and decided to wear it. He asks her if it looks good on him, but she doesn't seem to care, and tells him dinner is ready, so he changes back to his usual clothes. They start eating together, and he notes that her food has improved, asking her if she's doing well in school. So she reveals that she's exhausted, because her classmates keep dragging her into different facilities, and he thinks it's nice that they're showing her around. But she explains that the school is massive, and she mentions that she had to read books about magic, but they were full of words she didn't know, so she couldn't understand them. She asks him if he can help her learn the words she doesn't know, and he decides to teach her during their free time, telling her they'll study at home. The next day, Alucia tells the knights that the Prince of Sphendavania will arrive soon, and their mission is to protect him while he goes around the capital with their princess. She notes that she'll be in the first squad with Hendlitz and Beryl, and they'll be guarding the princess, but Beryl knows that she made the arrangements so that she could introduce him to the royalty. After that, they meet Princess Salacia, who recognizes Beryl as the special instructor, and she notes that Alucia has told her about him. Prince Glenn joins them, and he starts talking to Salacia, as Beryl realizes that they're in a relationship, but he decides to focus on his duties. They get on their carriage, and Alucia tells Beryl to stick to their plan, so he gets on the other carriage and acts as a decoy. The knights escort the carriages through the city, as Beryl realizes that they have the traffic under control. But the carriages suddenly stop, as Salacia reveals that she saw a beautiful hair accessory, so she wants to check it out. She heads to a jewelry store, but Hendlitz and Beryl realize that there's a huge crowd outside, because they want to see the royals. The people watch them as they return to their carriage, and Gatoga tells Glenn not to cause another scene. But Beryl sees a dark figure in the crowd, and it suddenly disappears, so he wonders if he was just imagining things. After that, Beryl tells Alucia about the person he saw, and notes that they had murderous intent, so Hendlitz decides to tighten the security. We see the royals outside a theater, and the people gather to watch them, but assassins suddenly appear, so Gatoga tells the royals to stand back. But Beryl wonders why the assassins don't have a murderous aura, and he sees another group descending towards them, as they cover the area with smoke. The royals hide in the theater, as an assassin charges at Beryl, but he blocks the attack. He realizes that the assassin's knife is poisoned, so he warns the others about it, and we see that they're also fighting assassins, as Alucia notes that they should capture them alive. Beryl's opponent continues to attack him, and he barely manages to block a kick, as he realizes that the assassins are fighting dirty. He clashes with his opponent and hits him in the head, knocking him back, and Beryl cuts his legs to take him down. Hendlitz's opponent throws sand to blind him, but he still manages to defend himself, and he senses the assassin approaching, so he uses his ultimate move to finish him off. Alucia easily cuts down her opponent, while Gatoga pushes the assassin he's fighting back and removes his mask, but he's surprised to see his face, and the man runs away. Rose easily overpowers her opponent and stabs him in the head, as Beryl realizes that she's changed because she wasn't an aggressive fighter. The knights prepare to capture the assassins, but they suddenly poison themselves, and Alucia realizes that they're already dead. The royals make their way to the palace, and Alucia notes that the knights are still searching for the assassins who escaped, so Beryl thinks the royals won't visit the town tomorrow. After that, Alucia reveals that the resident garrison learned about the incident, so they increased the number of guards on duty. She tells Beryl to head back while she and Gatoga meet the higher-ups, and Rose realizes that she isn't needed, so she decides to leave. Beryl returns home, where he sees Lucy waiting for him, telling him she wants to talk to him about the incident. He wonders why the magic corps wasn't involved, so she explains that they had to stay behind the scenes, and Mui suddenly decides to leave. Lucy realizes that she left because she knew that they were about to talk about something sensitive, and he's impressed that she was able to read the room. Lucy explains that the mages weren't involved because of Svendivania's religion, telling him they're non-believers, but they can perform miracles, so it would make the Church of Sven look bad. She reveals that there's a power struggle in their country, and tells him the papists are fighting the royalists, but he wonders if the Pope is more powerful than the king. So she explains that the Pope is the higher authority, because Svendivania is a religious state. But the king holds more political power, because he's the head of the parliament, which appoints the government officials. She thinks the papists are behind the assassination attempt because they want to get rid of Glenn so that the second prince can replace him. Beryl thinks it won't make a difference, but she reveals that the second prince is a devout follower of the church, so the Pope will gain authority if he takes over. Beryl thinks tomorrow's tour will be cancelled because of the incident, but she mentions that it isn't that simple, and Mui suddenly returns, so Lucy decides to leave. Meanwhile, Rose approaches Alucia, who wonders why she didn't return to the inn, so she explains that she's looking for Gatoga. Alucia reveals that he's in the middle of a meeting, and Rose wonders what they'll be doing tomorrow, asking her if the royals will head to the agricultural area. Alucia wonders why she wants to find out, so she explains that it's for security purposes, and Alucia tells her to ask Gatoga after his meeting. But Rose convinces her to tell her about the areas they should be careful of, and Alucia agrees to talk to her in the reception room. But she realizes that it's currently in use, so Rose suggests going to a cafe. After telling her about the agricultural area, Alucia prepares to leave, but Rose mentions that she also wants to talk about Beryl. She reveals that she used to be a traveler, and she met him by chance 6 years ago, while Alucia mentions that she was with him when he was younger, telling Rose how amazing he was. She admits that she likes him, and mentions that he hasn't changed at all, but they see a boy that's lost named Ritter, who reveals that he can't find his mom. Alucia suggests taking him to the guardroom, but Rose thinks he just got separated from his mother, and he tells her what she looks like. Alucia starts looking for her, but Rose just calls out, telling his mother to find them. After that, we see Ritter with his mother, and he thanks Rose for her help, as Alucia realizes that she's fond of children. She reveals that her mother used to donate to the orphanage, so she spent time with children, and notes that they must be protected, because they're the treasures of the nation. The next day, Alucia announces that the royals will proceed with the tour, and tells the knights to be vigilant, because they know that the assassins are still at large. The royals enter their carriage, as Beryl realizes that Glenn can't cancel the event, because he will lose influence as the next king. As they're about to leave the gate, Gatoga suddenly stops Beryl, and reveals that Hinnis was behind yesterday's attack. Beryl can't believe he's with the assassins, and Gatoga promises to deal with him if he shows up again, saying he already told Alucia about it. They head to the agricultural area, where the royals have a stopover, and they check out the farms. Beryl notes that it's an open field, and they have knights on the outer perimeter, so he thinks the assassins won't be able to attack them. But they suddenly get shot at, so the knights stop their arrows, while Beryl tells the royals to get down. The assassins charge in, so he cuts them down, but he realizes that the archers are still attacking. The knights dodge the arrows as they fight the assassins, and Beryl tells Gatoga to deal with the archers, so he leaves to look for them. The assassins continue to attack Beryl, who easily defeats them, and one of them is about to reach Glenn, but Henblitz cuts him down. Beryl tells Alucia to take the royals to their carriage, and gather the knights to protect them while they're inside, so she orders Henblitz to assemble their men. Beryl heads to the woods, where he meets Rose, who tells him his skills are impressive, but he prepares to take her on, telling her they can finally talk. He reveals that he found her suspicious because she suddenly disappeared while the assassins were attacking them, and he wonders why she wants to get rid of Glenn. So she reveals that she wants to end the power struggle, and explains that she's using her sword for the greater good, because the Pope promised to give the children a better life if the country is unified. We return to the knights, as they continue to fight the assassins, and Henblitz wonders if Beryl is okay, but Alucia tells him to have faith in her master's strength. Beryl dodges Rose's attacks, and tells her to give up, but she explains that the Pope will kill orphans if she fails. She mentions that she won't hold back, and realizes that Beryl is upset, so she tells him to scold her, reminding him that he's her master. They continue their fight, and she tells him she's impressed, because he knows how to fight an opponent with a shield. But he struggles to keep up with her, because she's using her shield to block his attacks, and he notes that it's difficult to read her moves. She charges in, but he focuses on her movements, and manages to deflect her attack, leaving her wide open. He attacks her with all his might, cutting through her shield and armor, and she starts bleeding, asking him about the move he just used. So he explains that he had to end the fight with a single blow, because he knows that his trick won't work on her again, but she thinks he didn't need to go that far to defeat her. She tells him to finish her off, but he explains that he can't do that, because she still needs to atone for her sins. Gatoga suddenly arrives, and he starts healing her, as he reveals that he took down the archers, but he saw her running away, so he decided to follow her. He manages to stop her bleeding, and wonders what happened, so Beryl tells him the truth, revealing that she was working with the assassins, because the Pope took orphans hostage. Gatoga can't believe the Pope would do such a thing, and tells her they should look for the orphans to ensure their safety. He mentions that he'll tell everyone that Hinnis is the mastermind, and she just got injured by the assassins, because he knows that she'll face the death penalty if the truth comes out. Beryl notes that he'll also get punished if everyone learns the truth, and he wonders why Gatoga is willing to go that far just to save her, so he reveals that she's his stepsister. Beryl wonders if he's a papist or a royalist, so he reveals that he's neutral, but his heart is with the prince. Rose mentions that she doesn't trust both sides, because Revius was tried unjustly, and Beryl wonders what she means. So Gatoga explains that he was accused of violating taboos, and everyone thinks the royalists just made it up, but Beryl notes that he saw it with his own eyes, because he was the one who caught him. He mentions that Revius worked with criminals to recreate the resurrection of the dead, and Rose can't believe it, so he tells her not to put too much faith in the Pope. He wants her to put her skills to better use, and she mentions that she wants to live, so that she can see what true justice is. He tells Gatoga to take care of her, and promises to keep his mouth shut, so that she won't get into trouble. We return to Alucia and the others, and we see that they're exhausted, but they were able to wipe out the assassins. Beryl returns, and they realize that the fight is over, telling him they couldn't have won without him. He mentions that Rose got injured while she was fighting by his side, but the medics already healed her, and everyone's happy that she survived. They return to the headquarters, where Alucia receives a letter from the royal palace, and she realizes that she's invited to the state banquet. She mentions that Beryl is also invited, and everyone thinks it's great news, but he doesn't want to attend, so Kuruni tells him he'll get the death penalty if he doesn't show up. He decides to attend the banquet, but he feels like he doesn't belong there, because he's surrounded by nobles. The king joins them, and he thanks Alucia for protecting Salacia, who's happy to see them at the banquet. He knows that Beryl played a major role during the incident, and she mentions that he was amazing, because he defeated countless assassins. The king realizes that appointing him as a special instructor was a wise choice, and he mentions that Salacia is set to marry Glenn, but he's worried for her safety. So he has decided to form a royal guard to protect her, and he asks Beryl to be their leader, but Alucia explains that he can't leave the kingdom because the knights need him. So the king tells him to protect their kingdom, calling him a master swordsman, and Alucia is overjoyed hearing this, because the king has finally recognized his abilities. But he still thinks he's nothing special, because he can't even defeat his father. Beryl returns home, and shows Mui the plate he received from the king, but he mentions that he doesn't feel like using it, so he decides to give it away. They start eating together, and he notes that her soup tastes better than the food he ate at the royal palace, but she thinks he's just exaggerating. We see Beryl's father at the dojo, where he shows Randrid the plate he received from Beryl, and they read his letter. They learn that the king called him a master swordsman, and he thinks he doesn't deserve the title, but his father knows it isn't true, because he really does have what it takes to become a true swordmaster. But that's where this video ends. Remember to like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.